This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Let's continue in our quest of understanding a little bit about Lashon Hara. So, Chazal tell us something very, very interesting. Chazal tell us that there are various items of clothing that the Kohen Gadol had, and those clothings were served as a kapora, as an atonement for Klal Yisrael. The me'il, as Chazal tell us, the me'il served as an atonement for Lashon Hara. The Kohen Gadol used to wear the me'il, and as Chazal tell us, that was an atonement, a kapora for Klal Yisrael, speaking Lashon Hara. Now, an interesting idea of one of the features of the me'il was, as the Gemara in Erechin tells us, Tezvov, that one of the ideas of the me'il was it was fully tcheles. It was totally tcheles. What was the reason for that? Says the Gemara in Erechin. The reason why it was fully tcheles is because it's a color that resembles the kisei hakavod. Right? Tcheles, we know that from tzitzis, the parish of tzitzis. Tcheles resembles the color of the kisei hakavod. You may ask, if that's true, and that's beautiful, it's very, very nice, but what is the connection between the tcheles and the me'il being an atonement for Lashon Hara? Okay, that's what Chazal tell us, but what does it mean? Okay? So the Chofetz Chaim explains it to us as follows. The Chofetz Chaim brings the Tana Devei Eliyahu. And the Tana Devei Eliyahu says that Lashon Hara, we mentioned this a little bit yesterday, Lashon Hara rises all the way to Kisei HaKavod. That means when a person speaks Lashon Hara, he will have to face judgment. He will have to face judgment before the Kisei HaKavod, and the tcheles on the me'il of the Kohen Gadol will be a reminder of that, because it's diamond to the color of the Kisei HaKavod. Is everybody with me? Okay. So that's a very important idea, which to remember what it means when a person speaks Lashon Hara all the way to Kisei HaKavod. Okay. You know, you wonder why the Chofetz Chaim wrote the sefer that he did. What a schos, an unbelievable schos. But why did he do it? So the sefer, there's a sefer, you can find it in the Sfarim shelves, called Kol Kisvei Chofetz Chaim. All the writings of the Chofetz Chaim. And it's written mainly by the son of the Chofetz Chaim, Rabbi Leib Kagan. The son of the Chofetz Chaim wrote many things about his father. And he explains what was it that promoted his father to write the Sefer Chofetz Chaim on the halachas of Lashon Hara. So the Chofetz Chaim himself already says, right, he doesn't mention this part, but he says that because I didn't see any place where all the halachas are brought down in one place. For example, if you want to learn Hilchas, I don't know, Bayra, so you open up Semen Shin Yates. If you want to learn Hilchas Yichud, you open up Even Ezer Simon Chav Beis. If you want to go through every halacha that you want to do, and you can find the simon, you can find where it is in Shulchan Aruch, where Talil Chelke Shulchan Aruch, you can figure it out. Chofetz Chaim, Lashon Hara, there was no place. It's not mentioned in Shulchan Aruch. It's very hard. It's in Rambam's, Rabbeinu Yoina's. It's all over the place. So the Chofetz Chaim says himself, the reason why I did this is because I never saw one place where everything was put together in a clear format. But that's what the Chofetz Chaim writes. The Chofetz Chaim's son writes something else. The Chofetz Chaim's son writes that there was a terrible, terrible machlokes that happened when the Chofetz Chaim was in Radin and he was 24 years old. He was 24 years old. A tremendous, tremendous machlokes happened in the community. And there was an argument between the Rov and various members of the community. And it led eventually for the Rov to be forced out of town. It was a huge machlokes. He couldn't stay there. He had to leave. Not long after that, the Rov passed away. And the people that were involved in the machlokes got tremendous sorrows in their lives. It says the Chofetz Chaim's son, when the Chofetz Chaim saw this, he was convinced that it was the problem of Lashon Hara that caused the machlokes, and therefore if people would know A, how severe the halachas are, and B, how to know what's mutter and what's asa, that would save many arguments, machlokes, tsaros, and who knows what else in Klal Yisrael. So, just from that story alone, we can understand what it means to learn the halachas, right? Again, those people that be makabel to learn, how beautiful. This is a chizik for you. Those that haven't, take it upon yourselves. It's a kabaldik limud. And like the Chofetz Chaim says, it stops from machlokes, from tsaros, from who knows what. Okay, so yesterday we talked a little bit about the Issur of Lashon Hara, who it applies to, and various different ways. I want to move on a little bit, like this. The Chofetz Chaim in Kal Vov writes as follows, right? This is already quite much into the Sefer. Kal Vov is already further in. And he writes a new halacha. The Chofetz Chaim says, not only is it asa to speak Lashon Hara, that's pashut, But it's an issa d'oraisa, to listen and be mekabel lashon hara. Mamash issa d'oraisa, which means if you're sitting in a conversation, sitting on the couch, sitting in the dining room, sitting in the beis medrash, sitting on your bed, whatever it is, and there's people talking, and unfortunately people talk about other people, right? That's a very, very big issue. The Chofetz Chaim was once in an inn, and they were discussing horses. The Chofetz Chaim was all, smiling and happy, and they're like, you happy with this conversation? Like, come on, they're discussing horses. I mean, people love horses, and it's beautiful to love animals, but Amaisa, this is not a Geshmaka conversation for the Heilige Chofetz Chaim. And he said, it's beautiful, because they're not discussing people. Once you discuss people, it's kimat zecha, says the Chofetz Chaim, that you're going to come to Lashon Hara. Therefore, the moment you're not discussing people, you're probably okay. So if you're sitting on your bed, you're sitting in the dining room, you're sitting in the beis medrash, you're sitting on the couch, and someone discusses something, someone says something about somebody else, and you're listening. So you are getting an issa d'oraisa, beautiful, an issa d'oraisa for listening and for being mekabel lashon hara. Right? You believe what you heard, which most of us do. You hear something, and at the end of the day, no one says, come on. Unless it sounds crazy. But if it sounds normal, you just nod your head, you smile, you laugh, you ignore it, who knows what. But you believe it, right? There's no reason for you not to believe it.
Trust him. Why would he lie to you?
It's not discussing. First of all, Lashon Hara is even on truth. Lashon Hara is on, we said this in the beginning. Lashon Hara doesn't mean he's lying. He's saying 100% truth. That guy, Taka, went there last night. He's right. He did. But you are not allowed to believe it. That's it. You are not allowed to believe it.
You don't decide to believe something.
Yes, you do. You know why? Whoa, you're only saying that because until today, until you heard this or until you learned the halachas, you know there's another tzad. When someone says something, you don't have to act on it, you don't have to respond to him, but it just goes in, we just believe things. That's how we act. Chofetz Chaim is saying it's possible to switch that. The Chofetz Chaim is telling us it's possible for a person to hear something from someone and I don't believe it. Okay? That's what the Chofetz Chaim says. Not only that, listen, 1 second. We said the Chofetz Chaim, if a person is mekabel lashon hara, person actually believes it, which again, like I said, most of us do. Maybe I speak for myself, I don't know about you guys, but maybe, whatever. So we speak lashon hara, we listen to and we believe lashon hara. He's over on the issa d'oraisa, l'sissa shemei shav, which, what Chazal tell us, Godel oynesh hamakabel yosem ha'oimrei. Says Chazal, you, the guy who believed the lashon hara, you get a bigger punishment than he who said it. That's Chazal, Rabbi say. What's the reason? Because if you weren't listening and you weren't being mekabel, which basically goes together, then he wouldn't be saying it. Generally, people don't talk to themselves. Generally, people don't talk to themselves. So if you're there, you are enabling him to talk, and therefore that's why you have a bigger issa and a bigger punishment. And therefore it's a problem. By the way, even if the guy who said it in front of a huge audience, said it in front of hundreds of people, come on, I can't not makabelate it, said in front of everyone, it must be true, doesn't make a difference. It is still asa in that case. Even if the guy himself is there, he doesn't even deny it. He talks about the way he went last night, the guy's like, cheekily smiling. You're not going to believe it. Come on, the guy you talked about was in front of you. He didn't deny it, he didn't say I didn't go there, what are you talking about? Can you imagine you talk lashon hara about someone, you say, this guy didn't wash for shalosh shudas. Chas v'sholom, right? The guy's there, it doesn't bother him, right? You just said lashon hara, d'oraisa, right? Because you said something bad about someone that wasn't mekayim a mitzvah. Chofetz Chaim, by the way, brings this down as an example. People have no idea how chomo these things are. It's a shalosh shudas. Melav malka. I'm not Reb Shaila Chosted, so I don't have to do a Melav malka, I'm saying that. We don't chap. We don't even chap, You missed Baruch Hu. You know what you just did? We don't even chap half the things that we say that they even lashon hara. That's why it's not shaykh for me to go through everything. You have to learn Chofetz Chaim yourself, because you'll become a lot more sensitive to it. It just, the more you learn, the more you hear, the more you understand. It's incredible. Just like I told you, I'm just giving you snippets, ideas. What about listening without accepting? What about a case where I'm going to listen, geschmack in the mikvah, mamash, geschmack raid. I'm not going to accept it though. I went to the sheh, I'm not going to accept it. Are you allowed to listen without accepting? Oh, beautiful. Says the Chofetz Chaim, issa d'oraisa. Mamash issa d'oraisa. Who wouldn't? Anybody eat chometz on Pesach?
So if there are other people...
Kares.
So if there are other people...
Let's try to debate something, Rabbi say. What?
If there are other people there, this guy talking.
No. The Chofetz Chaim discusses that as well. Even there's more people, the more into it he is, the more excited he is, the more he goes on. And once they start trickling away, he stops. listening to Lashon Hara is asa, even if you make up your mind not to accept it. The only exception, yes sir?
What would be the case if you already know the case? Like, you know, someone said, you saw someone.
So that's already getting into many protim. It could be if you know about it, you're not being makabelit. Obviously not having makabelit. But again, it could be he's talking to other people. Now the exception over here is if it's negaya to you. What if it's negaya to you? What if you need to know? For example, you want to start a new chavrusa, and you want to ask the previous chavrusa of this guy, think he's a good chavrusa for me, why do you want to know? You want to know because I want to know, is he clever? Is he fast? Is he slow? Does he go to every Rashi? Does he go to every Tosfos, Pnei Yeshua, Kivei Eiga? I want to know, how does he learn? It's negaya to me. It's very, very important. Does this guy ever come 2 minutes late to Seder? It's not negaya. How can I know about such a guy? You need to know these things. These are very important things to know, right? So the Maisa, if it is negaya to you, it's negaya for shidduchim, it's negaya for chavusas, it's negaya for business partners. You want to ask, is he a trustworthy guy to go into business with? He wants to go into business with me. Is this a trustworthy situation? So then you are allowed, again, without going into all the details, there's a tremendous amount of details, but just to give an idea, you are allowed to listen, but you're never allowed to suspect. So the Chofetz Chaim, what, you an idiot? Oh, come on. What are you meant to be, a tippish, a fool? So the Chofetz Chaim says, no, you're allowed to be choishish. For example, let's say you hear from someone that a guy never pays back a loan. You hear this, you're sitting on the couch and someone's complaining, oh, I lent this guy money twice, 3 times, 4 times, he's never paid me back. Now, that's an issa, right? Because you're not allowed to not pay someone back. So it's Lashon Hara. Now you hear that. You're not allowed to be mekabelit, 100%, never allowed to be mekabelit. But what you are allowed to do is be choishish. Which means if that guy comes over to you and says, hey, can I please borrow $100? You could be choishish and say, not say, but no.
There's some sort of belief on
Chofetz Chaim, again, you have to understand. I'm skipping all the details. Chofetz Chaim goes through this barichas and explains it. I'm just giving the Rashi Prokim. Chofetz Chaim says that there's a difference between believing it that it's true and being choishish for it. Meaning, believing it means, I believe it. This guy is a liar, he's a cheater, he's a thief, he doesn't pay anyone back. That's called believing it. Or, it's not true, come on. But Lamaisa, for the sake of my $100 in my back pocket, I'm going to be choishish for it. Right? That's the word of the Chofetz Chaim. And again, I'm skipping steps here, only because we're not shy to go to all Sefer Chofetz Chaim in a few shiurim. But there is a difference. When it's mutter, also for shidduchim, and to know things like that, and things like that. Or for example, if it's very negaya, that a parent has to know about a child. Let's say if you're friendly with someone, and he's doing something to damage him, you tell the parent, I'm just letting you know, this is what your son's doing. Again, the parent's not allowed to believe it. The parent can be choishish for it and deal with it. They're not allowed to believe it, but you are allowed to say it. And you're allowed to listen. If you're a parent and someone's telling you about your child, and it's not to us. All of these situations, right? Again, to go through every situation is not shayach, but just to give you the idea that sometimes, yes, it is mutter in that case. I told you I once had to call up a Rov and tell him, please break off this shidduch. They were about to get engaged either that night or the next night. Baruch Hashem, they didn't. I think now they're both married to different people. But Akaponim, he had no idea. The Kala had no idea what the Chosin was getting up to. I did. In fact, somebody called me. I didn't believe him because I said I didn't hear it myself. I didn't know it myself. I didn't see it myself. I'm not believing you, but I'm going to be choishish for it enough not to ruin a marriage of a girl. And therefore I called up the Rov of the community there, who was very involved in the Kala's family. And I said, do me a favor. This is what I've heard. It's not 100% facts. I don't know 100%. I never saw it myself. This is the matzav, but it's from a reliable source. And you could decide to do with it whatever you want. Obviously, you have to be careful from all the conditions. You can't exaggerate. You can't have any personal toyelas from it. You can't hate the guy and say, got him! Doesn't work that way, right? That's what they do in America with the president. We're talking about a regular situation where you have nothing against the guy or anything like that. You simply want to help people. What's that?
Let's say in your case you hated this guy, but you knew what's going on.
If you hate him, you're not allowed to do it. Because the Chofetz Chaim says absolutely not. In that case, you're not allowed. Why? Because you have a personal te'eles. You enjoy the fact that I ruined his business partnership or whatever it is. Are you with me? Are you sure? Again, there are many details here. That's also the Chofetz Chaim. It's pages and pages and pages of halachas. You have to go. There's a reason the Chofetz Chaim spent an Nikum Medayik in every word, right? He didn't just write stam. Okay. I'll tell you a Modik Amaisa actually, just to give you a sensitivity of who the Chofetz Chaim was. Chofetz Chaim used to travel from place to place selling his farm. If you think about it, it's mind-boggling. You have the Godel Ador, the Tzaddik Ador, Mamish, a Goin Otzam, a Tzaddik, who Mamish wrote Sfarim. Nobody knew who he was. Nobody cared. He had to never go around from shul to shul. You ever saw these guys who come around the shul selling these Sfarim? You don't even look at them. You're like, if you're like a nice guy, you hold yourself to be like a good midas guy. You're like smiling and saying, really sorry, just to be nice. But that's it. you imagine the Chofetz Chaim coming around shuls and people like not even looking at him, not even caring? Who are you? You got Sforim, get out. Like, unbelievable. But it didn't stop the Chofetz Chaim. He wanted to spread Torah. Anyway, so he used to go from place to place. How did he get everywhere? He used to, rent a wagon or, rent somebody's wagon that they were going anywhere that place, and he used to go on. One particular time, he got onto a wagon. They had no idea who he was, and he had all his farm there, and it was very, very squashed. And he said, do me a favor, I'm told the driver, I'm sitting here like this, it's squashed as anything. I can't do this anymore. Can you give me a couple of minutes break to get out, stretch my limbs, stretch my bones, and then I'll come back on and then we'll continue the journey. The driver says, sure, no problem. He stops for a minute, Chofetz Chaim gets off, stretches for a moment, and the wagon driver drives off. Who's this guy in here? What do I need him for? And he drives off. So Chofetz Chaim had to never walk all the way to the town in order to, go to that town to get his farm and sell the farm. So he goes to the town, he finds out where the wagon driver lives, he goes to his house, he takes the farm and he pays him for the journey. That alone is unbelievable. But it continues. He leaves, packs up, gets a wagon, another wagon, obviously, and goes to the next town. And someone said, well, one second, you're here now with all your farm, but maybe you want to sell it, maybe you want to... He says, no. He says, if I start selling my farm, what normally happens is people start coming to me with shilas and people start coming to me with brachas because they realize who I am. I have tremendous haskafa, and people know who I am. I don't want to give tsar to that wagon driver when he hears, oh my gosh, look what I did to the halachic Chofetz Chaim. That's a sensitivity about somebody else's feelings. And that's why the Chofetz Chaim was who he was, and that's how he got the schos of writing such a thing, because the sensitivity he had to somebody else was absolutely tremendous. The sensitivity that he had for somebody else's feelings, to think about somebody else. And that's what we have to do. We have to train ourselves not just to speak that which comes to our minds. And we do that all the time. Again, I speak for myself. We just talk, we just say. We never think beforehand. This teaches us, and the more we learn the halachas, and tomorrow Be'ez Hashem will continue with a bit more, the more we learn the halachas, the more we get a sensitivity to understand how choshev it is, the words that come out of our mouth, how much they can affect somebody else, what they can do to somebody else. And that's what we have to do. We have to learn to measure our words, to count our words, to realize the potential damage that our words can do. Have a sensitivity to somebody else's feelings. You can literally change somebody's life. Have a wonderful day. Tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem, we're going to wrap up all the halachas.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.